Dinner time, Ezekiel 29. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, on the 12th of the new moon, the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Pharaoh, the sovereign of Mizraim, and prophesy against him and against Mizraim, all of it. Speak, and you shall say, Thus said the Master Jehovah. See, I am against you, O Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, O great monster who lies in the midst of his rivers, who has said, My river is my own, and I have made it for myself. And I shall put hooks in your jaws, and I shall make the fish of your rivers cling to your scales. And I shall bring you up out of the midst of your rivers, and all the fish in your rivers cling to your scales. And I shall leave you in the wilderness, and all of the fish of your rivers on the face of the field you shall fall, and you shall not be picked up or gathered. I shall give you as food to the beasts of the field and to the birds of the heavens. And all the inhabitants of Mizraim shall know that I am Jehovah, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. When they grasped you with the hand, you broke and tore all their shoulders. When they leaned on you, you broke and made all their loins shake. Therefore thus said the Master Jehovah, See, I am bringing a sword upon you, and shall cut off from you man and beast. And the land of Mizraim shall become a desert and a waste. And they shall know that I am Jehovah, because he said, The river is mine, and I have made it. Therefore see, I am against you and against your rivers, and shall make the land of Mizraim an utter waste and a desert, from Migdol to Seveneh, as far as the border of Cush. No foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast pass through it, neither shall it be inhabited for 40 years. And I shall make the land of Mizraim a desert in the midst of the lands that are waste, and among the cities that are ruined her cities shall be a waste 40 years. And I shall scatter the Mizraites among the nations, and shall disperse them throughout the lands. For thus said the Master Jehovah, At the end of 40 years I shall gather the Mizraites from the peoples among whom they were scattered. And I shall turn back the captivity of Mizraim, and I shall bring them back to the land of Pathros, to the land of their birth, and there they shall be a lowly reign. Being the lowliest of reigns, and never again exalt itself above the nations. And I shall make them few, so as not to rule over the nations. And no longer is it to be the refuge of the house of Israel, bringing to remembrance their crookedness, when they turn to follow them. And they shall know that I am the Master Jehovah. And it came to be in the 27th year, in the 1st month, on the 1st of the new moon, that the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, made his army to serve a great service against Sor. Every head was made bald, and every shoulder worn bare. But he and his army received no reward from Sor for the service he served against it. Therefore thus said the Master Jehovah, See, I am giving the land of Mizraim to Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, and he shall take away her wealth, take her spoil, and remove her pillage, and it shall be a reward for his army. I have given him the land of Mizraim as a reward for his labor, because they worked for me, declares the Master Jehovah. In that day I shall make the horn of the house of Israel to spring forth, while I open your mouth to speak in the midst, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. And the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus said the Master Jehovah, Howl, woe to the day! For the day is near, even the day of Jehovah is near. It is a day of clouds, the time of the nations. The sword shall come upon Mizraim, and great anguish shall be in Cush. When the slain fall in Mizraim, and they take away her wealth, and her foundations are broken down. Cush and Put and Lud, all the mixed people, and Cud, and the sons of the land of the covenant shall fall with them by the sword. Thus said Jehovah, Those who lean on Mizraim shall fall, and the pride of her power shall come down. From Migdol to Seveneh, those within her shall fall by the sword, declares the Master Jehovah. They shall be ruined amidst the wastelands, and her cities shall be in the midst of the cities that are dried up. And they shall know that I am Jehovah when I have set a fire in Mizraim, and all her helpers are crushed. On that day messengers shall go forth before me in ships to make the complacent Cushites afraid, and great anguish shall come upon them, as on the day of Mizraim. For look, it is coming. Thus said the Master Jehovah, I shall cause the crowd of Mizraim to cease, by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel. He and his people with him, the ruthless ones of the nations, are brought to destroy the land. And they shall draw their swords against Mizraim, and shall fill the land with the slain. And I shall make the rivers dry, and I shall sell the land into the hand of evil ones. And I shall lay the land waste, and all that is in it, by the hand of foreigners. I, Jehovah, have spoken. Thus said the Master Jehovah, and I shall destroy the idols, and make an end of the images of Noph, and there shall no longer be a prince from the land of Mizraim, and I shall put in the land of Mizraim. And I shall put fear in the land of Mizraim. And I shall make Pathros a waste, and I shall set fire to Soan, and I shall execute judgments in No. And I shall pour out my wrath on Sin, the stronghold of Mizraim, and I shall cut off the crowd of No. And I shall set a fire in Mizraim. Sin shall writhe in anguish. No is to be split open, and Noph has adversaries daily. The young men of Aven and Pi Beseth shall fall by the sword, while these cities go into captivity. And in Teaphanes the days shall be darkened, when I shatter the yokes of Mizraim there, and the pride of her strength shall cease in her. A cloud shall cover her, and her daughters shall go into captivity. And I shall execute judgments on Mizraim, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. And it came to be in the 11th year, in the 1st month, on the 7th of the new moon, that the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, and see, it has not been bound up for healing, to put a bandage to bind it, to make it strong to hold a sword. Therefore, thus said the Master Jehovah, See, I am against Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, and shall break his arms, both the strong one and the one that was broken, and shall make the sword fall out of his hand, and shall scatter the Mizrites among the nations, and disperse them throughout the lands, and strengthen the arms of the sovereign of Babel. And I shall put my sword in his hand, and I shall break Pharaoh's arms, and he shall groan before him with the groanings of the slain before him. And I shall strengthen the arms of the sovereign of Babel, but in the arms of Pharaoh shall fall, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. When I put my sword into the hand of the sovereign of Babel, and he shall stretch it out against the land of Mizraim, and I shall scatter the Mizraites among the nations, and I shall disperse them throughout the lands, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. And it came to be in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, on the 1st of the new moon, that the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, say to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, and to his crowd, to whom are you to be compared in your greatness? See, Ashur was a cedar in Lebanon, beautiful branches and forest shade, and of the high stature, and its top was among the thick foliage. The waters made him great, the deep gave it height with its river running around its planting, and sent their channels to all the trees of the field. Therefore its height was lifted up above all the trees of the field, and its boughs were increased, and its branches became long because of the many waters, as it sent them out. All the birds of the heavens made their nests in its boughs, and under its branches. All the beasts of the field gave birth, and in its shadow all great nations dwelt. And it was beautiful in greatness, and in the length of its branches, for its roots reached to many waters. Cedars in the garden of Elohim did not hide it. Fir trees were not like its boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like its branches. No tree in the garden of Elohim was as pretty as it. I made it beautiful by its many branches, so that all the trees of Eden, which were in the garden of Elohim, were jealous of it. Therefore thus said the Master Jehovah, because you have increased in height, and it set its tops among the thick foliage, and its heart was lifted up in its height, I give it into the hand of the mighty one of the nations, and he shall certainly deal with it. I have driven it out for its wrong. And foreigners, the most ruthless of the nations, shall cut it down and leave it. Its branches shall fall on the mountains, and in all the valleys. Its boughs lie broken by all the rivers of the land. And all the peoples of the earth shall come out from under its shadows and leave it. On its ruins shall dwell all the birds of the heavens, and all the beasts of the field shall be on its fallen branches, so that none of the trees by the waters would exalt themselves, because of their height, nor set their tops among the thick foliage, and that no tree which drinks water would ever be high enough to reach up to them. For all of them shall be given up to death, to the depths of the earth, among the children of men who go down to the pit. Thus said the Master Jehovah, in the day when it is brought down to Sheol, I shall cause mourning. I shall cover the deep because of it, and hold back its streams, and many waters shall be confined. And I shall make Lebanon mourn for it, and all of the trees of the field shall wither away because of it. And I shall make the nation shake at the sound of its fall, when I bring it down to Sheol together with those who descend into the pit. And all the trees of Eden, the choicest and best of Lebanon, all that drink water shall be comforted in the depths of the earth. They too shall go down to Sheol with it, with those slain by the sword, and those who were its strength shall dwell in its shadows among the nations. To whom are you to be compared in esteem and greatness among the trees in Eden? But you shall be brought down with the trees of Eden to the depths of the earth. Lie in the midst of the uncircumcised, with those slain by the sword. This is Pharaoh and all his crowd, declares the Master Jehovah. And it came to be in the 12th year, in the 12th new moon, on the first of the new moon, that the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, and you shall say to him, You are like a young lion among the nations, and you are like a monster in the seas, and you burst forth in your rivers, and trouble the waters with your feet, and muddy their rivers. Thus said the Master Jehovah, And I shall spread my net over you within an assembly of many peoples, and they shall bring you up in my net. And I shall leave you on the land, hurl you out on the open fields, and make all the birds of the heavens dwell on you. And with you I shall satisfy the beast of all the earth. And I shall put your flesh on the mountains, and fill the valleys with your height, and water the land with the flow of your blood unto the mountains, and let streams be filled with you. And when I extinguish you, I shall cover the heavens, and make its stars dark. I shall cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light. All the bright lights of the heavens I shall make dark over you, and I shall bring darkness upon your land, declares the Master Jehovah. And I shall trouble the hearts of many peoples, when I bring your destruction among the nations, into the land which you have not known. And I shall make many peoples appalled at you, and their sovereigns shall be greatly afraid of you, when I swing my sword before them, and they shall tremble continually, every man for his own life in the day of your fall. For thus said the Master Jehovah, The sword of the sovereign of Babel shall come upon you. By the swords of the mighty men, all of them, the ruthless ones of the nations, I shall make your hosts fall, and they shall ravage the arrogance of Mizraim, and all its hosts shall be destroyed. And I shall destroy all its beasts from besides its great waters, and let the foot of man trouble them no more, nor let the hooves of beast trouble them. Then I shall make their waters clear, and make their rivers run like oil, declares the Master Jehovah. When I lay the land of Mizraim waste, and the land shall be stripped of all that once filled it, when I have stricken all who dwell in it, then they shall know that I am Jehovah. This is the lamentation, and they shall lament her. The daughters of the nations lament her. Over Mizraim and over all her crowd they shall lament her, declares the Master Jehovah. And it came to be in the 12th year, on the 15th of the new moon, that the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, wail over the crowd of Mizraim, and send them down to the depths of the earth, her and the daughters of the mighty nations, with those going down to the pit. Are you more pleasant than others? Go down, be placed with the uncircumcised. In the midst of those slain by the sword they fall. She shall be given to the sword, drawing her and all her crowds. The mightiest among the mighty, speak to him out of the midst of Sheol with those who help him. They have gone down, they lie with the uncircumcised, slain by the sword. Ashshur is there, and all her assembly, with their burial sites all around her, all of them slain, fallen by the sword. Whose burial sites are set in the sides of the pit, her assembly is all around her burial place. All of them slain, fallen by the sword, because they instilled fear in the land of the living. There is Eliam, and all her crowd around her burial place, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, who have gone down uncircumcised to the lowest parts of the earth, because they instilled fear in the land of the living, and they bear their shame with those going down to the pit. They have set her bed in the midst of the slain, with all her crowd, with her burial sites all around it, all of them uncircumcised, slain by the sword, for the fear they instilled in the land of the living. So they bear their shame with those going down to the pit. In the midst of the slain they have been placed. There are Meshech and Tubal and all her crowd, with all their burial sites around it, all of them uncircumcised, slain by the sword, because they instilled fear in the land of the living. And they shall not lie with the mighty who are fallen of the uncircumcised, who have gone down to Sheol with their battle gear, and whose swords were laid under their heads. But their crookednesses are on their bones, because of the fear of the mighty in the land of the living. And you shall be broken in the midst of the uncircumcised, and lie with those slain by the sword. There is Edom, her sovereigns and all her princes, who shall be given up in their might, with those slain by the sword. With the uncircumcised they lie, and with those go down to the pit. There are the princes of the north, all of them, and all of the Sidonians, who have gone down with the slain, because of the fear they instilled. They are ashamed of their might, and they lie uncircumcised with those slain by the sword, and bear their shame with those going down to the pit. Pharaoh and all his army shall see them, and he shall be comforted for all his host that were slain by the sword, declares the Master Jehovah. For I have put a fear of him in the land of the living, yet he shall be placed in the midst of the uncircumcised, with those slain by the sword. Pharaoh and all his host, declares the Master Jehovah. And the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of your people, and you shall say to them, When I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land shall take a man from their borders, and shall make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming upon the land, and shall blow with the shofar, and shall warn the people. Then whoever shall hear the voice of the shofar, and shall not take warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood is on his own head. He heard the voice of the shofar, but he did not take warning. His blood is on himself. But he who takes warning shall deliver his being. But if the watchman sees the sword coming, and shall not blow with the shofar, and the people shall not be warned, and the sword comes and takes any being from among them, he is taken away in his crookedness, and his blood I require at the watchman's hand. And you, son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and you shall warn them for me. When I say to the wrong, O wrong one, you shall certainly die, and you have not spoken to warn the wrong from his way, that wrong one shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. But when you have warned the wrong to turn from his way, and he has not turned from his way, he shall die in his crookedness, but you have delivered your being. And you, O Son of man, say to the house of Israel, This is what you have said, If our transgressions and our sins lie upon us, and we pine away in them, how then shall we live? Say to them, As I live, declares the Master Jehovah, I have no pleasure in the death of the wrong, but that the wrong turn from his way and live. Turn back from your evil ways, for why should you die, O house of Israel? And you, O Son of man, say to the children of your people, The righteousness of the righteous man shall not deliver him in the day of his transgression. And as for the wrongness of the wrong, he shall not stumble because of it in the day that he turns from his wrong. And the righteous shall not be able to live because of his righteousness in the day that he sins. When I say to the righteous that he shall live, and he has trusted in his righteousness, and shall do unrighteousness, none of his righteousness shall be remembered, but because of his unrighteousness that he has done, he shall die. Again, when I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, if he turns from his sin and does right and righteousness, if the wrong restores the pledge, gives back what he has stolen, and walks in the laws of life without doing crookedness, he shall certainly live, he shall not die. None of his sins which he has committed shall be remembered against him. He has done right and righteousness, he shall certainly live. And the children of your people have said, the way of Jehovah is not fair, but it is their way which is not fair. When the righteous turns from his righteousness and does unrighteousness, he shall die because of it. And when the wrong turn from his wrongness and does right and righteousness, he shall live because of it. And you have said the way of Jehovah is not fair. O house of Israel, I shall judge every one of you according to his own ways. And it came to be in the 12th year of our exile, in the 10th month, on the 5th of the new moon, that one who had escaped from Jerusalem came to me and said, the city has been stricken. And the hand of Jehovah came upon me the evening before the man came who had escaped. And he had opened my mouth before he came to me in the morning, and my mouth was opened, and I was no longer silent. Then the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, they who inhabit those ruins in the land of Israel are saying, Abraham was only one, and he inherited the land. But we are many. Let the land be given to us as a possession. Therefore say to them, Thus said the Master Jehovah, You eat meat with blood, and you lift up your eyes toward your idols, and shed blood. Should you then possess the land? You depend on your sword, and you commit abominations, and each of you defiles his neighbor's wife. Should you then possess the land? Say this to them, Thus said the Master Jehovah, As I live, those who are in the ruins shall fall by the sword, and the one who is in the open field I shall give to the beast to be devoured, and those who are in the strongholds and caves shall die of the pestilence. And I shall make the land a desert and a waste. The arrogance of her strength shall cease, and the mountains of Israel shall be a waste, with none passing through. And they shall know that I am Jehovah, when I have made the land a desert and a waste because of all their abominations which they have done. As for you, son of man, the children of your people are talking about you, besides the walls and in the doors of the houses. And they speak to each other, each saying to his brother, Please come and hear what the word is that comes from Jehovah. And they come to you as people do, and they sit before you as my people, and they hear your words, but they do not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, their hearts pursue their greedy gain. And see, you are to them as a very lovely song of one who has a beautiful voice and playing well on an instrument. And they hear your words, but they do not do them. And when it comes, see, it shall come, then they shall know that a prophet has been in their midst.